Hey everybody, this is David here, aka Chessman, and I'm here continuing my series where I cover all the chess openings. This is my favorite series because the other ones I'm playing chess and it's all fun and everything, but this one I really feel like I'm giving back to the chess community and I'm adding to the chess database that we have and I'm adding to the knowledge that we have by doing this research. And so it makes me feel like I'm giving back. So I hope the people that really want to improve in their chess, they find these videos and that they study them. And there's a lot of information, so I apologize about that, but that's just the way chess is. If you want to master chess, you have one part is the chess opening, and there's a lot of information to know. So it can be very overwhelming. So just try your best. You got to use your head. You got to use your brain and figure out, okay, this is all the information, but what information should I learn first? And that way you can cut through it faster. But it's slow and steady wins the race, so it could take a while. It could take years. It will. I don't want to. I don't want this to be daunting, but it'll probably take years. So yeah, there's no. I don't think there's any quick tips on how to get better at chess. The only tip I have is watch as many videos and read as many chess books as you possibly can, and that's pretty much it. So, all right, let's get into it. We've been covering the Roy Lopez, and today we're covering the Zaitsev variation. And if you don't know how to spell it, it's right here. Zaitsev. I never heard of it until I look deeper into the Roy Lopez, but that's what it's called. Let me put it on the board for you. It goes e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles kingside, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles kingside, h3, and bishop b7. This is the Zaitsev variation. And the computer gives it a 0.48 plus 0.48, so it's almost a half pawn advantage for white, but it's very playable. Like half pawn isn't much at all, so you can play with this as white or as black. What I'm covering today is the top 5 moves that white can play, and that is d4 can be played, a4, bishop c2, d3, and a3. All right, so we're going to start with d4. All right, so the top 5 moves that black can play for d4, and they're not all that great. Some of them, like the best one is rook e8. And actually, let me just arrow it. So rook e8 is the best move according to the computer, followed by knight to b8, then a5, followed by h6, and knight to a5. Knight to a5 gives plus 0.90 to white, so it's still playable, but you can't make as many mistakes as black. But it's still good to learn it, because if black plays it, then you need to know what to do, how to take advantage with white. All right, so first we're going to cover rook e8. If black plays rook e8, then the best move for white is knight b to d2. Then black should play bishop to f8. Then white should play a4. Black should play h6. Then black should play d5, followed by knight to b8. Then 8 takes b5. 8 takes b5. Rook takes a8. Bishop takes a8. Knight h2. And c6. And again, this is plus 0.35 advantage for white, so not much at all. So it's pretty much an even game. This is the best that you can do as white or black. if you're playing the Zaitsev variation. All right. So the next best move you can play instead of rook to e8 is knight to b8. So if black goes knight to b8, the best that white can do is d takes e5. Then black should play d takes e5. Then white should take the queen, and then bishop should take the queen back. Then knight takes e5, followed by knight takes e4. Then knight to d2. Then knight to c5. Then bishop to c2, followed by knight to c6, and knight to e4. This is plus 0.56 for white, so it's a bit better than the rook e8, position we got. But it's still playable for both sides. It's just it's a little slightly better for white. Alright, so the next best move that black can play besides rook e8 or knight b8 is a5. If black plays a5, then white should play knight to a3, then bishop to a6, followed by bishop to c2, then b4, followed to knight to b1, then knight to d7, then d5, then knight c to b8, then bishop to d2, followed by c5, followed by a3, queen c7, and b3. And this is plus 0.64 in favor of white, so slightly worse, slightly better for white than the previous situation we had, but still playable for both sides. Whoops, too far. All right. Okay, so the next best move that can be played for black in this position is h6. And if black plays h6, then white should play knight b to d2, followed by rook to e8, followed by knight to f1, followed by bishop to f8, then knight to g3, then knight to a5, then bishop to c2, knight to c4, b3, knight to b6, bishop d2, a5, and bishop d3. And this is plus 0.73 in favor for white, so a bit higher of a plus for white. You can see white's pieces are pretty active. But it's still playable for black as well. So again, most likely your opponent won't play perfectly, but so it's playable from both sides. Yeah, it's totally playable. All right, so the last move that we're going to cover from d4, after playing d4, that black can play is knight to a5. So after knight to a5, the bishop should retreat to c2. Then knight should go to c4. Then you should play a4. Then knight should go to b6. Then a takes b5, a takes b5, rook takes a8, queen takes a8, queen to e2, e takes d4, knight takes d4. And this is plus 0.90 for white. So a bit better than all the other variations that we covered, but you can't make too many mistakes as black because you're already pretty much down almost a pawn. But it's still playable. You just can't really make any mistakes. So this is how to play if your opponent goes knight a5. But hopefully your opponent won't play the best moves and you'll get a huge advantage. Alright. So those are the 5 different moves black can play after white plays d4. So we're going to cover the next move, but I just want to go over the initial, just so I think repeating some stuff is good. So basically what we're covering is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles kingside, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles kingside, h3, and bishop b7. And we just covered d4 and 5 different moves from d4. So now we're going to cover the second best move that white can play, and that's a4. And if you want to take notes, you could pause the video and write all this down. Or if you, no offense, have a brain and you can figure out which one you want to learn, or which 2 or 3, maybe you don't want to learn all 5 variations. I mean, if you're playing against it, then it's good to know all of them. But let's say, like, what you could do is you could play the Roy Lopez as white you're playing with white pieces. But what you could do as black is just, if you're against d4, you could always play the Sicilian or the Carol Khan or the French defense, and then you never have to know this as black. So if you're only going to play this as white, well, for this, like, you could decide, well, you know what, I'm only going to play d4. So if you're only going to play d4, then you just need to know these 5 lines, and you don't need to know the rest. Or if you're thinking d4 is too well known, then maybe you want to pick a4. Or maybe you want to try all of them and just see which one you feel better, which position is more to your style. So, yeah. So it's strategy. Okay, so after a4, the 5 best moves black can play is knight to b8, d5, knight to a5, h6, and rook to e8. Alright, so the first move we're going to cover is knight to b8. If black plays knight to b8, then white should go d4. Knight should take e4. A should take b5. A takes b5. Rook takes a8. Bishop takes a8. Queen to d3. Followed by knight to g5. Then bishop takes g5. Then bishop takes g5. And d takes e5. And this is plus 0.22 for white, so it's pretty much even. So again, with a4, the average is plus 0.29, so it's slightly not as good for white as d4. But I mean, the games you're playing, most likely, unless you're in the 2700 level, which you're probably not, you're expecting your opponent to make some mistakes or some inaccuracies. So that's what the game of chess is. We have our lines that we know, and we're just waiting. We're waiting for our opponent to go wrong, and then we're ready to pounce. So if they don't go wrong, then at least up to move 16, you'll know the move before you have to stop and think, and then you should have like a good 2-3 minute advantage on the clock. So that's the best we can do. All right. So that was knight to b8. The next move you should learn, if black plays, is, or you could play yourself if you're playing this from the black side, is d5. And if black plays d5, white should go e takes d5, followed by knight takes d5, a takes b5, a takes b5, rook takes a8, bishop takes a8, d4, e takes d4, queen to d3, b4, c takes d4, and that is plus 0.28. So slightly better for white than the previous variation, but not much. So again, you just play this position and take a look at it, and do you feel good in this position if you're with white or black? And if you feel good, then learn it. If you don't, then just make sure you never play the Roy Lopez. Like again, if you're playing with the black pieces, you could always play the Sicilian or the Caro-Kann or the French defense or the modern or the Pierce defense. There's a lot of different things you could play instead of instead of e4 e5, the Roy Lopez, the king pawn. So, all right. So that was d5. The third best move black can play is knight to a5, and white should play bishop to c2, followed by c5. Let me just highlight it so you know which one I'm going over. So after c5, you can play, the best move is to play d4. Black should take, e takes d4. Then white should go a takes b5. Then d takes c3. Knight takes c3. A takes b5. Knight takes b5. Knight c6. Rook a3. And this is the best that you can do, so you should learn it. This is also plus 0.28, so again, pretty much an even game. Again, hopefully your opponent won't play the opening this well, and you'll get a good advantage. And alright, so I keep repeating myself, but sometimes it's good to hear the same thing over again. Alright, so we just went over knight a5. The next move we're going to go over is h6. So here, black could play h6. And if he plays h6, white should play d4, followed by rook to e8, knight b to d2, e takes d4, c takes d4, knight to b4, e5, d takes e5, d takes e5, knight f to d5, then knight to e4. Again, you just have to look at this position and be like, do I feel good in this position? Maybe if you're playing this as black, you like how your bishop's on the long diagonal and your two knights are out. Maybe that makes you feel good and makes you feel active. And then again, maybe that's why you might not want to play this as white. But according to the computer, this is a plus 0.31. So it's pretty much an even game. And alright. The last move we're covering that black could play is rook to e8. If black plays rook to e8, then white should play d4, followed by h6. This is the best move. Then knight b to d2, e takes d4, c takes d4, knight b4, e5, d takes e5, d takes e5, knight f to d5, and knight e4. So basically, this is the same position as the previous variation. If you look at it, you'll notice the first three moves are just in reverse order. It went h6, d4, rook e8, and then the one we did this time was rook e8, d4, h6. So I just did what the best moves were from the computer, and it happens to be the same position. So it's plus 0.31. So yeah, so you could play it in either order. All right. Alright, so the next best move, what we covered is when white plays a4 from this position, And if white does not play a4, the next best move white could play is bishop to c2. This is the third best move, according to the engine. It's plus 0.26, so about a quarter of a pawn in favor for white. So let's see what we got here. All right, so the 5 best moves that black could play from this position is d5, knight to b8, queen to d7, rook to e8, and h6. And they're all pretty playable. So the first move we're going to cover is d5. So if black plays d5, white should play d4. Then d takes e4. Oops. D takes e4. Knight takes e4. Excuse me, knight takes e5. Then knight takes e5, d takes e5, knight d7, knight to d2, knight takes e5, knight takes e4, queen takes d1, and rook takes d1. So this is plus 0.12 for white. So again, almost nothing, pretty much all zeros. This is the best you can play if you're going to play bishop c2 and d5. Again, so if you're playing with the white pieces, you could be like, you know what, I want a surprise weapon, so I don't want to play the best move, so I'm going to play bishop c2, and then you'd have to learn all 5 of these variations. All right. If you're playing with the black pieces, then you need to know bishop c2, but you could just learn one of these 5 variations, the move you want to play against it. So that's what you have to do. You have to use your brain, you have to use your head, and figure out. Otherwise, you're going to have to memorize 10 times the amount of information. And maybe you just like to know information. So if you do, then good for you. You'll have way more options than the average person. But it can be overwhelming. So let's see. So that was d5. The next best move that could be played is knight to b8. And let me highlight that. If black plays knight b8, then white should play d4 again. And black should play rook to e8. White should play a4. Then knight b to d7, bishop to d3, d5, e takes d5, e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, rook takes e4. And even though white's up +2, the computer says it's plus 0.27. So this is up to you. Do you want to go with what the computer says, or be like, you know what, I don't. With white, clearly I want to be up 2 points of material, but maybe as black, this makes you not want to play this line. But you just got to figure out, why is this almost equal? So yeah, I mean, you'll probably get a pawn back, but you'll still be down a pawn. That's what the computer says. So, all right. That was knight to b8. The third best move that can be played here in this position is queen to d7. If black plays queen to d7, white should play a3, followed by d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, d4, e takes d4, c takes d4, rook f to e8, knight b to d2, knight f6, and knight to b3. This is plus 0.36 in favor of white. but still totally playable as from either side of the board. But we got the 2 active knights. Black's knights are active too. Again, we got this bishop on this long diagonal. That's all because of the Zaitsev variation, putting the bishop there. That's always going to be a perk in the position. Yeah, looks pretty even to me. Both kings look safe. Both rooks are active. Both players have the rook in the corner. So yeah, that's queen to d7. The 4th best move that can be played here is rook to e8. If black plays rook e8, then white should play d4, followed by h6, knight b to d2, bishop f8, a4, e takes d4, c takes d4, knight b4, bishop b1, c5, d5. And this is plus 0.52 in favor for white. Again, you just got to look at the position, and to me, I like it because I like how these pawns kind of block the dark square bishop. So that's what I like about it. I don't know what to think of this knight. In a way, it's nice that he can't jump back to a c6 square. So I'm not sure what he's doing here. Is this out of place, or is this an attacking piece? Not sure. But that's rook to e8. And the last move that is really playable here is h6. After h6, white should play d4. Then e takes d4, c takes d4, knight b4, bishop b3, c5, a3, knight c6, knight c3, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and yeah, pretty equal position. Still got your light square bishop, so everything's even. It says plus 0.59 in favor for white. Maybe white's pieces are slightly more active. The white pawn is towards the center more than black's pawn. So that gives, I guess, white almost about a half pawn advantage. But it's still playable for both sides. So again, if you're playing with the black pieces, you just need to choose one of these 5 variations to play. If you want options, though, then you can learn all of them. It just depends how good your memory is, how fast you are at learning. Otherwise, again, considering all the openings you need to know versus all of them that you can know, if you don't, again, if you're ambitious and you just want to learn everything, more power to you. I wish I could do that. I try to do that. Every once in a while I get inspiration and I get inspired to learn more than I feel like I need to, and I go for it, and then I tire out. So, but if you can do it, maybe you have a younger mind than mine and you're still in school and you're able to do this stuff. But if not, then you got to use your head and be like, okay, am I even going to play the Roy Lopez as white? Do I just need to know it from the black side? Maybe, I mean, if you're not even going to play e4 as a first move and you're not going to play e5 as black, then you don't even need to know the Roy Lopez. But Roy Lopez is one of the best openings, so you should probably know it. All right, so that's if we're playing bishop c2. Those are the 5 different variations. All right, so the next move that you can play as white here is d3. And the 5 best moves And d3 gives white plus 0.17 advantage. So hardly no advantage at all. That's the downside. But it's still playable. Again, you're trying to learn variations, and then hopefully your opponent doesn't know them. That's the goal. So getting a huge advantage, like, you're not going to get a huge advantage if your opponent knows the variation. That's just the way it is. But most likely they won't. 90, probably 90, over 90% of your opponents won't know the variation. So, all right. So the top 5 moves that black can play here is knight to a5, h6, rook to e8, d5, and knight to b8. Alright, so the first move is knight to a5. If black plays knight to a5, white should go bishop c2, followed by c5, knight b to d2, rook to e8, knight f1, h6. Let me highlight this. This is what we're covering right now. So h6, knight to g3, bishop f8, d4, e takes d4, c takes d4. And this is plus 0.20 for white. But yeah, it's hardly anything. Alright, so you just got to look at this position and be like, do I like how this position is? If you do, then you should play it. If you don't, then you shouldn't. Or you should study it more. Alright. So that was if we played d3. I mean, if we played knight to a5. So the second best move, instead of knight to a5, is what black could play h6. So if black plays h6, white should play d4, followed by rook to e8, knight b to d2, bishop f8, bishop c2, g6, d5, knight b8, c4, c6, and b3. So this gives white plus 0.34 advantage. And looks alright. I mean, so far it's a closed position. So if you like closed positions, maybe you want to play it. If you don't, then you shouldn't. It just depends how you feel. It looks like, to me, white has a little more space. So maybe this is good for white. It does say plus 0.34. That's probably what the advantage is the space. But yeah, it looks pretty even to me. So that was h6. The third best move that could be played here is rook to e8. If black plays rook to e8, white should play a4, followed by h6, then bishop to a2, knight. Bishop to f8, then knight to a3, then d5, a takes b5, a takes b5, knight takes b5, queen to d7, and e takes d5. So this is plus 0.37 in favor for white. Yeah, looks like an active knight. So, but it still looks pretty even. But yeah, it just, how do you feel? Like, you should look at the position and see if you understand it, and sometimes you should go about how you feel about it. Sometimes you just get a good feeling, and sometimes you don't. But really, I want to say you shouldn't go on feeling. It should be on concrete reasons why you don't like something, because the computer says it's playable, so most likely it is. Like, if you don't like it because you just don't see many playable moves, that's a reason. If you see a position, you see, you know what, there's all kinds of moves I can make here. then that could be a good reason to play it. Maybe that way, whenever you're playing against this, maybe you're playing against the same opponent and you keep getting the same position. If you have multiple options, then you can change it up so you don't just repeat. But yeah. So that was rook to e8. All right. So the next best move that could be played is d5. And if black plays d5, then you should play e takes d5, knight takes d5, a4, queen d7, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, rook takes e5, bishop f6, rook e1, b4, knight to d2. And this is pretty playable for both sides. It's actually a slight advantage for black. I think I put these out of order. So negative 0.07, so actually this should be at the top, I think, because it's black's move, so the lower the amount, the better it is for black, so I'll fix it later. But this is negative 0.07, which is less than plus 20. So this is probably the best move. But again, it doesn't really matter. You just got to look at it and you got to see if you understand it and just be like, yeah, there's plenty of moves I can play from here, or no, there is not. But if there's not very many moves your opponent can play, then that could be a good reason to play it yourself. So most likely they'll make a mistake. But you got to do you got to study it, do a little research, and figure it out. All right. So that was d5. All right. So the last move that's pretty good to play if you're playing with the black pieces is knight to b8. And if black plays knight to b8, white should play knight b to d2, followed by knight b to d7, then knight to f1, then knight to c5, then bishop to c2, rook to e8, a3, a5, knight g3, bishop f8, and bishop to e3. And this would give white a plus 0.31 advantage. So again, still close to zeros, so it's equal. It's pretty much equal for both sides. And again, you could just look at it, and again, I see all four of white's pieces are developed, so that's a good sign. All four of black's pieces are developed as well. It doesn't look like this bishop is developed, but it is. It's protecting g7. That could be useful. But I could see white's four pieces, because of that bishop, do seem to be a little bit more active than black's four pieces. So that could be why it's plus 0.31 for white. But it's still playable for both sides. So, all right. So we're going to cover one more move for white in the Zaitsev variation. We just covered all the moves we can play if we play d3. Now the last move is a3. And according to the engine, a3 actually gives black a slight edge, negative 0.14, still hardly nothing. So it's still totally playable. But it's the first one that gives black actually an edge. So that could be enough of a deterrent for you to not want to learn it. On the other hand, if you're playing with the black pieces, you got to know at least one of these lines to play against it. So again, you have to decide, am I playing e4, e5 as black, or am I going to play something else? The Sicilian, the Caro-Kann, the French defense, the Pierts. Those are the main ones. Alright, so if white plays a3, black's 5 main moves are d5, knight a5, knight b8, h6, and rook e8. If you've been paying attention, you notice the 5 moves are pretty much the same in all the different move orders. So if you learn this, then even if you're not playing the exact same position in a game, most likely those are good moves. So it's good to keep those in mind. It's good that you're seeing them a lot. So, all right. So the first move black could play, which is the best move, is D. Let me make sure that it's the best move. Yeah, I put it in order this time. It's d5. And if black plays d5, then white should play e takes d5, followed by knight takes d5, then a4, then a5, bishop f6, d3, knight c, knight c to e7. Oh, I misclicked. When I did bishop to f6, I didn't actually do it. Let's see. Let me just go back. I misclicked something. Alright, so a3, d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, a4, b4, a5, bishop f6, d3, knight c to e7, d4, e takes d4, c takes d4. Sorry about that. But that's the main variation if you're playing a3 d5. And okay, again, this is a good example. The computer said that a3 is negative 0.14, yet if you play the best line, it's plus 0.01. So that's where you just can't trust the computer. That's why if it's close to zeros, it's probably zeros. And it's probably always zeros. So, alright. So that was if we played d5. The next move is knight to a5. If black plays knight to a5, white should retreat the bishop, bishop to c2, then c5, d4, e takes d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, rook to e8, knight f5, bishop f8, and knight to c3. Knight to c3. And this gives white plus 0.18 advantage. So again, you shouldn't trust the computer when it says plus 0.18. You should just be like, that's probably zeros. Yeah. So that's if we play knight to a5. So look at the position. If it feels good to you, then you should play it. Again, if you're not, I mean, what else are you going to do? Unless you're going to really study it. If you really study it and try different moves and play it against the computer and practice, which takes a lot of time and effort, because you got to do this on each position that you study. So again, I can, when I make these videos, I'm doing it because I think I'm helping the chess community, but I just know most likely 90% of you, maybe even more than that, aren't going to take the time to do this. So in a way, it kind of feels like a waste, but I feel like it's still worth it if those 10% of you are out there and want to put in at least a quarter of the time to learn some of these. It's just you got to use your brain to figure out, okay, which ones do I need to learn? So I'm trying to give you advice on how to do that, but mainly these videos, I'm just giving you the information, and it's up to you to figure out how to use it and to figure out which information you need to learn. So, okay, that was knight a5. Now we're covering if black plays knight to b8. If black plays knight to b8, then white should play bishop c2, then rook to e8, d4, knight b to d7, b3, bishop f8, d5, c6, c4, queen c7, and bishop d2. Again, kind of a closed position like we saw in the other position about 5 minutes ago. So again, you got to be like, do I like closed positions? Do I not? And if you don't play it. If you do, then play it. Maybe you think your opponent's more uncomfortable than you are. Or maybe you're against a stronger opponent and you don't want an open position against them. Maybe you think your chances of drawing are better if it's a closed position. All right. So that was knight b8. The fourth best move that you can play here as black is h6. If black plays h6, white should play d4, then rook to e8, bishop to c2, bishop to f8. Again, a lot of the same moves that we've been seeing. Knight b to d2, knight to b8, b4, knight b to d7, bishop to b2, c6, knight to b3. So this is plus 0.33 for white, in favor for white. So it's still pretty much all equals, all balanced. Don't know if this is going to be a closed position or not. Don't know if we're going to be pushing d5 or not, or if we're going to be trading. But it looks pretty balanced. You have to wait to see which lines open up to see where you put your rooks. But it looks pretty even. Will this knight jump in and try to get that bishop? I don't know. Is that bishop really worth it? I don't know. This is where you have to use your mind and figure it out. That's the fun of chess, is making those decisions. All right, the last line we're covering is if black plays rook to e8, which we've seen a bunch of times. So if black plays rook to e8, again we see d4. We see h6 again. This time we see bishop to a2, bishop to f8 again, knight b to d2 again, knight to b8 again. Now we see queen to b3, then queen to d7, queen to c2, a5, and a4. This is plus 0.41 in favor for white. Basically, the higher the rating goes, it just means there's less moves you can make. So there's still moves to make to go for a draw, but there's less of them. So it's maybe you have one or two more moves as white, as opposed to what black has to play in these positions. But you can still have drawing. You still have a drawn hand. Like you can still make a draw with it from white or black. So yeah, so we've been seeing a lot of the same moves. So just by watching all these, it should be in your mind to be like, okay, rook e8 is a good move, knight to b8 is a good move, h6 is a good move, bishop to c2 is a good move, knight b to d7, knight b to d2 is a good move. So d4 is a good move, d3 is a good move, a4 is a good move. You may have to do a little bit of calculating, but if you're just guessing because you don't know what to do, most likely if you play these moves, everything should be fine. And sometimes that's what we got to do. If we're on the clock and we got to make a move, then sometimes our best guess is what we have. So that's all I got today. Um, this is called the Zaitsev variation, Zaitsev variation, and it's the first time I've heard of it. But so maybe your opponent won't know it. So this could be a great surprise weapon. And yeah, so give it a try. We're gonna keep. There's a whole lot more I got to cover in the Roy Lopez. I got to cover Rook E8. What a surprise, Rook E8. We've been Knight B8. That's the Breyer variation. So Knight to A5. That's Jagoran variation. H6 Mislov variation. So a lot of moves we've already seen. I'm gonna have to cover again, and it could be very similar. So, but that's the hard part is when these variations are similar, and you got to remember what the differences are. That could be difficult. But if you have any certain openings you like that I should cover, let me know in the comments. I'm probably going to cover Rook E8 next, or maybe the Breyer variation next. But yeah, so if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I hope this video wasn't too overwhelming, too daunting, but I to admit I get overwhelmed all the time when I think about chess openings, and I have to sit at my computer and with my notebook, and I got to figure out how to organize it. And then once I organize it, then I'm able to hack away at all the opening stuff. But that's all I got for today. I'm sort of getting a sore throat, so yeah, I'm gonna head off, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.